And welcome back to The Way of the Wandering Wizard. I am Robert Andrew Meredith Kennedy, though most folks know me as Bob the Wizard, and I am a pure and open channel for the finest vibrations of divine love and light, made manifest here in service to Gaia and those who travel with her. My last little episode was introducing you to Felicity the Frame. Excuse me, I'm a little bit stunned by the bright lights which she insists on having, because she's such a star. Right, come on then, princess, up you come. There now. Actually, strangely, that's quite comforting. So, on with the frame journey. I think it would have been 10 days, say. After the operation, I was back in Kings. Packing all came off. My stitches came out. The wounds had healed magnificently, and joy of joys, I was allowed to shower. I'd spent a long time in a cast. Bathing was incredibly difficult, trying to hold your leg up in the air and bathing in the shallowest of water. Just enough to keep your hair clean. Despite appearances, I'm quite a clean person. Anyway, joy of joys, able to shower and shower the frame off. I could actually get my leg wet, no problems. And I took full advantage of that. As I said, just being clean. I found it to be very therapeutic. It was just washing off the day's pain and grief that I'd been through. After showering, of course, you had to air dry the frame, no patting it with towels, and once it was dry, would wipe it all over with antiseptic wipes and my special spray, the antiseptic spray that I was given. Have a good frame cleaned down and then repack my wounds. Back to the gauze, rolling it round each pin, little clip. There's a lot of pins. I mean, this is my bathing ritual, which I shall share with you if you again, should you be watching with a frame, this is just what I did. This is not necessarily approved by anybody. Please speak to your team. But after a few days of showering, standing up, which was tiring, or lying in the bath with a plank across the bath with my leg held up, like that, or like that in the frame, on a wooden plank, it slipped off and fell in the bath. Well, it's wet anyway. I had antiseptic hand soap. Pumped that into the bath water, washed all my frame off. It actually felt really quite good to have the leg immersed. Just warming through the frame. That's not ideal. Swift bath. Out I got, dried it off. That actually became my routine. I would then pre-wash, remove all my packs and padding, wash my frame off in the shower, wash myself, then fill a bath, have a little soap with the antiseptic soap in the water, washing my leg very carefully, scrubbing the frame, just taking time. Hey, I ride a Harley. Yeah, I like to keep it clean. If it had come in chrome, I'd have been even happier. Once that was done, I'd be out the bath, shower off again, wash it all down, spray the whole thing with Hibby Scrub, just to keep it clean, and then let it air dry, and then sitting, trying to bend over, doing the limbo dance of trying to pack each pin. Get quite good at it after a while. It became a little routine for me, cleaning pins. Well, it was about all I had to do. The rest of the time I was just sitting around, back watching television. A few visitors every now and again. The kids were at school, the missus was at work. I think it was about week 6 I got rescued. I had a tap on the door or a phone call, and Gary and Dave, bless them, loaded me up into the truck and drove me up to Sevenoaks Wildlife Reserve. There's a small garden just by the side of the car park. It's about as far as I could hobble, literally 10, 15, 20 yards. hobbled along, sat myself down on a flower bed and spent a happy few hours, distracted from the pain and what I'd been through, taking pictures. Any insects. It's the first time I'm used to moving around and finding a shot, taking a shot. Just had to plunk myself down, see what landed. But strangely, well, not strangely, good company, good friends, open air, wildlife to look at, a change of scene, and it just lifted my spirits and my healing. So thanks, boys. It was on that very trip, on going into the one hide that I could get to, hobbling up the slope, that there on the wall is the standard pitch that you find in many hides all over the country, with a huge array of birds, many of which you are highly unlikely to see, but they could be there because it's the habitat. We're scanning around. The bearded reedling, the bearded tit, basically this little chap in the middle here. Well, it looks like a bit of a mustachioed bandit, the bearded tit. We all had beards. We won't go any further than that, although we can behave like that from time to time. The three amigos had been taken and was trademarked. The three musketeers didn't really work. Three grumpy old bikers, I don't know, didn't have the same ring to it. But the bearded tits, that did, and that's what stuck. And therein a great friendship, and literally has kept me buoyant through so many trying times. I'll be honest, I got back from that trip, I think I slept for 2 days straight. It was exhausting. It was quite painful when I'd finished. I'd pushed myself a little too far. The boys were great, they got me back home. Like I said, loaded me up with painkillers. And it gave me something to do. Couldn't quite bend my leg down, but I could sort of sit at the computer, so I had photo processing to do. Again, another distraction, something, and a constant reminder of having been out, keeping me tied to the outside world, that natural world, which is just a huge part of my life. I started to buoy up. A few weeks later, they took me off to the British Wildlife Centre. Another sits on the Surrey border. I had no idea it was so close. And it is just another wonderful sight for those that are physically challenged or young or in wheelchairs or pushchairs or whatever. Although the animals that are being raised there are part of an amazing programme to support British wildlife, there are showcase ones, I don't know, special cases, shall we say, who are on display to the public. They're in a good enclosure, they're in their habitat, they're well fed, they are loved and looked after. It's one of the only places in this area that you can see a red squirrel this close. It became a haven, an absolute haven for me in my recovery. Whenever we were between operations, whenever I had a gap, whenever I had a space, whenever I had nothing to do taking more pictures, the boys would load me up, drive us over there, and we would have just an epic day of hobbling around, 3 old mates, putting the worlds to rights, having a smoke or two, and just enjoying life. What could be better? Those little early visits, though they became a big part of my recovery, buoyed me up a little. And so that summer, as the term came to a close, my first summer in a frame, I decided that I'd face my public, so to speak, and I'd go up on the school run. I'd sort of been trying to walk a little bit further each time the trips out. I'd been building up strength, I was getting used to carrying the weight, and so I made it up to the sports day. Now, I'm not particularly competitive, I've never really been into sport, I've never really watched sport. I love archery. Not competitive archery, but the process of shooting archery. That's more where I sit. I've certainly never been in the dad's race, never felt any need to be in the dad's race, but for some bizarre reason, probably down to quite copious amounts of pain relief, and that part of me, which is people are going to look, and they're going to look anyway, they don't mean to, just put yourself out there. Just do it. And so, as the second round of the dad's race, I think it was called to order, I shuffled up on crutches. Okay, it took me a long time to get to the end of that track. But the kids' school, my cubs that knew me through the pack, all of those friends and that community that you get in just the amazing school that the girls were at, really buoyed me. I have to say it was a huge round of applause, and for those that were there on that day, thank you. It was such a lift, absolutely such a lift. I mean, that pretty much near enough put me on my backside, I have to say. I think I hobbled back home and pretty much loaded up on the painkillers and went out for a couple of days. But it was good to be out and about, trying to live an ordinary-ish life as you can do with this on your leg. At the time, as I said, she is Felicity to me now, but at the time she was very much a ball and chain. The summer progressed, all went well. Everything was looking good. I was up to King's every now and again, more x-rays. Sights were all looking good, alignment was all looking good. I was ready for what's known as my osteotomy, which is basically a surgical procedure or a surgical break to the lower part of the leg. The good bit where the reconstruction was going to be taking place. And I started the process of lengthening the limb and reconstructing myself using this wondrous bionic device. They are amazing. By process of turning these various dials, literally with a dialed prescription, millimetres or half a millimetres at a time, with these wonderful piece of engineering. Legs can be moved, limbs lined up. So I had a set of practices to do. You start your adjustments. I started to wind my leg out to start gaining bone. Osteotomy in place, ready to start my program. I was instructed on how to follow the intricate, and this is a 3D computer model. It is really clever stuff, folks. I absolutely loved the tech on it. As what they were capable of doing was moving my leg around, lining it all up, making sure that my knee and my heel just line up perfectly. And I'd be growing a new leg, or the new section in the middle. I was excited to get started, soon discharged from hospital. By that time we were on a ward which was it was all framers. I have to say, if this looks like a challenge, some of the frames that I saw on other people was immense, including facial framework. And for those guys, seriously, much respect. Absolute respect of having something like this on your head. Well, probably need one of them on the inside from time to time. But anyway, enough of me waxing lyrical in the limelight with Felicity. I started the process of limb lengthening, and I will cover that in my next little chapter, which will probably be tomorrow, because to be honest, the bright lights that Felicity insists on are making my eyes hurt, and it's been a long day. Thank you as always for listening to a challenging time of my life. As I say, certainly not dark. I felt supported, even though I wasn't accepting her at the time. Things were moving in the right direction. It looked like I was going to keep my leg, keep it growing back to its full length, which I'll cover in my next little chapter. As always, thank you. Take care, go well, and blessed be. This is Bob the Bedazzled Wizard, signing off. Great night, Felicity.